Welcome to Grammar 5G. In this booklet, we will be reviewing verbals. We'll learn about another verbal called a gerund, and then we're going to diagram with gerunds. So let's get started with our review of verbals. Remember, verbals are words or phrases that are a verb but act like another part of speech. So, if you open up your book to the front and side cover, we'll get started with a review of infinitives. Infinitives can act like a lot of different things. They can act like nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. So let's get started with the noun. My favorite pastime is to read. To read is our infinitive in this sentence, and it's renaming pastime, making it a predicate nominative. Remember, because infinitives can act like nouns, they can act like a direct object and a subject as well. Next example sentence, the book to read is in the library. In this instance, that same infinitive to read is modifying book. It's describing which book is being referred to. So it is acting like an adjective in this sentence. Next we have, I went to the library to read. In this instance, to read is modifying the verb and telling us why we are going. And so in this instance, even though we're using that same infinitive to read, we know that it's not modifying library. Instead, it's telling us why we are completing the action of going. Notice that when we have an infinitive as an adverb, it will most likely be answering the question why. Sometimes it can answer the question how. And then our last example with an infinitive, this book is fun to read. To read is modifying how it is fun. So it is fun to read, making it to read an adverb because it's modifying an adjective. Now, we've also learned about past and present participles. These two act as adjectives and only adjectives. So let's look at our first example. Justin will eat burned toast. Burned is modifying the type of toast that is being eaten. So, burned is an adjective modifying our direct object. Next we have the swimming pool was full. Swimming is modifying pool, making this present participle an adjective. Now that we've learned about those verbals, let's introduce a new one, gerund. Gerunds are verbals that act as nouns, and only nouns. So, here's an example. Running is my favorite exercise. Running, although it's a conjugated verb, in this sentence is acting as the subject, meaning it is a noun in this sentence. Notice that the difference between a gerund, a present participle, and progressive form, it's all about the relationship with the rest of the words in the sentence. So let's look at another example. Scott enjoys working. What is being enjoyed? What's receiving the action of the sentence? Working. Working is acting as a direct object and is a noun in this sentence. Working is a gerund in this sentence. Whereas the next one we have, the town has a working factory. Working is modifying factory. It's acting as an adjective, therefore it is a present participle. And then the next one is Scott is working downtown. In this instance, the conjugated verb working is being used in the progressive form. It's the action being completed by the subject, making it the main verb for the present progressive. So notice that it's all about what is happening in the sentence and how it relates to the other words. So let's look at two more examples. Baking is very fun. Well, first, let's identify our verb. Baking is not an action that is taking place in that first sentence. Instead, is our verb in this sentence, and it's linking our subject to more information in the predicate. So, our subject is baking. The gerund baking is fun. Fun is modifying our subject, making it the predicate adjective. The next one we have is her profession is baking. So in this one, we can identify our subject first. It's a little bit more straightforward. Profession is our subject, and then we have to identify our verb. Well, we know that the profession isn't completing the action of baking. That just doesn't even make sense. Instead, once again, our verb is, and baking is renaming the profession, making it the PN. Notice that if we flip that sentence, say baking is her profession, it still makes sense and it doesn't change the meaning of the sentence. So make sure you're paying attention once again to what the function of that gerund or verbal in general is in the sentence. And just make sure you're analyzing how all of these words relate to each other within the sentence. So now we will get into sentence diagramming with gerunds. My family enjoys camping. First, let's find our subject, family. And what is our family doing? The action being completed is enjoys. So I'm going to double underline that. And what is being enjoyed? Camping. That's our direct object. That is our verbal. It's a gerund. And then, of course, we have my, which is a possessive pronoun that's functioning as an adjective modifying family. So we have figured out every part of this sentence. We can go ahead and make our long baseline intersect it so we can have a section for a subject and a predicate. And then since we have a direct object, we're going to have a short little line like this. Now, since we have a gerund as our direct object, we have to do a little bit more in the direct object area. So just like with the infinitive, we are going to start with a nice little pedestal like this. And when we have a gerund, we create a little step like this. And this is how you diagram for a gerund, just like you do something special for the infinitives. And then we need one more line coming off of the subject because it has a modifier. So we can start filling it in. Family is our subject, enjoys is our verb, and then our gerund is going to be split up. We have our root and then our ing, so that we always have the ing on that lower step and the root at the top. And only the ing will ever be on that lower step. And then all we have to do is put in my, which is modifying family, and we are all done diagramming my family enjoys camping. So if you have any other questions about this diagram or anything else in grammar, please contact the person who grades